Everybody else's kids are worse than yours. Quiet ones are a bit like I think will be a nice Christmas, yeah.
The joy of family is, of course, you have to go up there everybody shopping, screaming, and jumping on top of you. That's the Latino way of Christmas.
Okay, we're going to start the recording then.
Recording's on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Heritage and Events for December 2023. There is an agenda. I'm going to ask if you'll agree to a slight change in the batting order, but apart from that, we make a start on 539. Are there any declarations of disposable pecuniary interest, please? No, thank you very much. 540. Apologies. Have we got some apologies?
So we've got apologies from Councillor Anne Blackburn, Councillor Vic Peters and Councillor Ron Wood.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. And now the minutes of the 18th of October meeting, which I hope you've had an opportunity to see. I'm a lucky one. I've got a paper copy as well in front of me. I just if I whistle through the page numbers and interrupt me if there's something you want to change, correct, further information, whatever. So Heritage and Events Committee minutes of October. Anything on page 1? Page 2? Page 3? Are you happy? Shine these as a correct record?
Yes.
You are. Thank you very much indeed. That's great. Okay, so we're on to item 542, Thetford Rickshaw project. To receive a request from Norfolk Community Foundation for Thetford Town Council support for the Rickshaw project. And we should, in theory, be agreeing whether that's something that we can support. So I'm going to invite a representative from Norfolk Community Foundation to speak to us from the public gallery. Would you like to introduce yourself, your organisation, and what the connection is, please?
Thank you very much. I'm Julie Dale. I'm Head of Philanthropy at Norfolk Community Foundation. And thank you very much for inviting us to join the meeting. I'm here with my colleague, Billy. I'm sure many of you know Billy, the person through and through. I thought it would be helpful to just give you a little brief run, if you like, on what a community foundation does and how it operates, because I know that some of you probably have come across this before. In fact, I recognise some people around the table, but others may not have done. So a community foundation is really set up to support communities and ensure that everybody has a place to thrive in that community. It's not a new idea. It started in about 1914 in America, and there are about 1,800 all over the world. So it's a massive movement. The Norfolk Community Foundation was set up in 2005, so we haven't been running for that long, but we have been very helpful, I would suggest, in bringing communities together and building stronger communities. So in that time, we've delivered over £40 million invested in local communities in Norfolk. So there tends to be a community foundation in each county. So Norfolk Community Foundation, why are we here? Well, we feel it's our sort of job, if you like, to build stronger communities, to bring people and organisations together to make that happen, to act as a bit of a catalyst. So the Rickshaw project, we're calling it the Rickshaw Revolution, just because it's such a nice way of saying it. I think that was Billy's idea. That was brilliant. And it's really to offer people who, for whatever reason, struggle to get out of their families, to be able to experience the local community and feel they have a place in that community. So it might be that they have mobility issues, but it also might be that they are very lonely. Social isolation is a massive problem, as I'm sure you would appreciate. We are in quite a rural community as well. So it's very difficult for a lot of people to really engage in the communities and the society that they're living in. And there's been a recent report which suggests that loneliness is particularly difficult to deal with physically and mentally. It's as bad as having a smoking habit of 15 cigarettes a day. So it has a huge impact on people and on everybody around. So the rickshaws, why rickshaws? Well, we came across the rickshaw project in Bury St Edmunds, set up in 2018, really successful, absolutely magical. And when we spoke to them, they talked about a weird joy. And we didn't really think much about weird joy until we actually got on a rickshaw, absolutely. And then it becomes very obvious that it is a very weird joy. The idea would be a rickshaw would be set up to run hopefully from the marketplace in Thetford and would be available to book, if you like, for people who would otherwise struggle to get out. So it would probably be through self-referral or referrals from GP surgeries, from nursing homes, from charities. People who are isolated for whatever reason or find it very difficult to get out would be offered rides around the town, probably for a couple of hours. We've had conversations with a number of charities and community groups who are really supportive of it and have already identified people who would benefit. We've spoken to local businesses, and particularly Warren Services. It was Richard Bridgman who was really keen to get this project up into Thetford, and he arranged for the rickshaw to come up from Bury St Edmunds on the day when we sort of talked about it at the Guildhall. And it's really to ensure that everybody has an opportunity. It is a bit quirky, it is a bit wacky, but actually it does amazing good. And certainly the comments we've had back from people who have used the rickshaw project in Bury St Edmunds have been absolutely phenomenal. Run on volunteers. So they've got about 50, 55 volunteers, a core of about 30. So they're volunteer riders. Some of the rickshaws have 2 seats at the front and a rider on the back, and others have it the other way around, a rider on the front, 2 seats at the back. There's also a cargo version, and they've now got one that takes a wheelchair as well. So people with severe mobility issues can benefit from this. So the volunteers would ride the bike round. We've spoken to local cafes in Thetford and various organisations who would be really supportive of having a little stop off front. So much for an ice cream. And the Berry project, which is a particularly good model, also has what they call chatty chums. So if somebody is really lonely, really isolated and hasn't had a huge amount of communication with anybody, a volunteer will sit beside them and have a good old natter about what's going on around them. So when we started thinking about the project at Thetford, we made contact with David Brooks and his team. And part of the conversation with him, which I'm sure he won't mind me sharing, was about the heritage trail and using the sort of the heritage and the culture of Thetford, which I wasn't fully aware of until I got talking to him and having a good look round. It's wonderful. And we feel that we can weave that into the rickshaw project so that people can be taken around and shown various sites, discuss what's going on around them, and actually really experience Thetford. So what we're asking for, and what we would hope you would agree to, is that Thetford Town Council would be interested in perhaps running the booking service for this, an online or a telephone booking service whereby the coordinator or a coordinator would take the bookings. There are different ways that could work, which we can explore in more detail if in principle you're interested in getting involved. And there are also various other income streams that could benefit the whole project. I know that the Berry one has a delivery service. Originally it started out just delivering through COVID, and it was taking charitable donations, picking up prescriptions, delivering food. But they've now started a sort of standalone side to their project, which actually is a green delivery service for the centre of Bury St Edmunds. So I think there's some other things to explore. It could be extended. So phase 1 would be purely and simply voluntary, no payments expected from anybody taking a ride on the rickshaw, run by volunteers to combat loneliness, isolation and mobility issues. I think phase 2, phase 3 could certainly look at community transport and certainly community delivery. So we're just asking that maybe the Town Council would be interested in supporting the project in general and hopefully for the booking system as well. I hope that's given you a bit of a snapshot. I know some of you have more experience of it than others because we did have a few people who around the table who came to our launch, which was brilliant. And some of you actually got on the rickshaw too, so that's good fun.
Okay. Thank you very much, Judy. Can I suggest that we ask questions and make comments in just a moment? I'd just like to give David a chance to say a word because if you've seen the committee officer's report, you'll know that it figures quite large on it. So I just want to see whether you've got a stage further than that or whether the comments you'd like to add to that.
Well, one thing Judy hasn't mentioned is also we've set up a preliminary steering group, of which Terry and I are members of. So we've taken it one short step forward. And I think there are a lot of support with various different organisations, as Judy has mentioned already. I mean, the committee makes the decisions. I'm just the officer, but I actually love the idea and I think it fits really well with what we're trying to do with the Guildhall and the Guildhall Hub. Yes, I understand the comment about it could be a bit wacky and gimmicky, but it is supported by three core elements which actually can support and benefit our local community. Unfortunately, I have a mother who is in a care home at the moment, and so I'm visiting quite regularly. And I constantly hear the old folk in the Guildhall talk about the good old times where they had a dance in the Guildhall or the market was this and that. And I just think to keep these guys, you know, vibrant and sort of switched on in terms of their mind, this would be an absolute godsend to them. I've talked to a couple of the personnel down at this particular care home where she is, and they think it's a marvellous idea. It's not a great commitment that Judy's asking for us. The online booking system would be an online booking system that would be embedded into the website. So it's not a great ask and for any real commitment from the staff. But I think that yeah, we could be one of those little cafe stop-offs as well. You know, it could start and finish at the Guildhall, and we want to make the marketplace a bit more vibrant. Visitors will come into the town during the summer, and again, it's another opportunity to make that project sustainable by offering short guided tours. If some of the volunteer riders are not au fait with our history and heritage, we can also offer our audio trails to be part of the support mechanism to that. So personally, I think it's a marvellous idea, but clearly you guys make the decisions. And hopefully.
Thank you for that. I should add, and you're absolutely right, we do have our steering committee. Brecon Council, although they haven't confirmed exactly how much, but it looks as though they will put the money on the table for the first rickshaw, which is approximately £8,000. So I think we've convinced them that it's a brilliant idea. They absolutely love the project as well. So I think we've got buy-in from them, which is really helpful. We've got another couple of conversations to have at the beginning of next year, again about funding. It's about insurance, the maintenance of the vehicles, the training of the staff and volunteers. So it's beginning to build the picture.
Right, thank you. Thank you both very much indeed. And just to throw it open now to colleagues, if you want to ask questions or make comments, please. Are there any to follow? Adam, okay, I'll take you first.
I'm just naive and new to the council. So I suppose that funding, everything comes down to money.
Yes.
And you're saying the first rickshaw would be donated.
We believe we have the money for the
What other, and obviously you're saying the online booking service would be a minimal effort and cost to the town council. What other underlying costs would there be to the town council, if any? And the other thing I was going to ask is it the Norfolk Community
Foundation?
How is that funded as well?
That's funded purely and simply by local donations in. So we have private funders, private philanthropists. They have their own funds that sit with us.
Yeah.
So that's how we're funded. As to other ongoing costs, I don't foresee any for the council.
Right.
I think if the booking is done through the council, that's a great relief to us because normally it'd be run by volunteers, and that's been quite clunky, as I understand, from other organisations that try to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And ongoing costs for the whole project would be obviously the bikes themselves, the rickshaws themselves, which are electric. So they cost about £8,000. And then there would be insurance and maintenance, which Berry tell me is about £1,100 a year each. And then we've got probably printing and design costs for things like this, for leaflets and things to make people aware of what's going on.
But that's all picked up by the community.
Well, we will be looking at bringing funders in to support that, yes.
We'll also be looking to draw from the huge amount of people in Thetford that have already got skills, like people at the men's shed.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation with those in January to see if they would like to be part of the ongoing maintenance and making sure that we're including as many different groups and people from the community to either produce the project or to benefit from the project, so that as much of it is done for Thetford, by Thetford as possible.
Sorry, I should have got you to introduce yourself in case there are any councillors who don't know who you are. So can you do that now?
Oh, sorry, I'm Billy Lawler and I work for Norfolk Community Foundation. My main job is actually looking after the Nourishing Norfolk network of affordable food hubs, but I also work with Judy on other projects as and when they pop up, particularly when they are around Thetford.
But just, sorry, just said that must be from an overall, from a town council perspective, apart from generally supporting the project and getting involved in the online booking, actually the commitment is very minimal. Fair, so.
Yes, well, we would say yes. I mean, we'd be very appreciative. if
No,
the
to
other-
support it,
Of course.
yeah, I get that, the more proactive the
Of
better,
course,
but in general,
absolutely.
the actual required commitment initially is very, very minimal. Yeah.
It's basically a jigsaw. We're putting the pieces together and we see the Thetford Town Council as being an integral part of that.
Yeah.
It's really quite a central point.
Thank you.
Any other comments from councillors, please? Certainly, Mac, yep.
I'm just going to make one. We've been pushing hard in this sort of council term to try and see what we can do alongside volunteers.
Yes.
And if so, it ticks all those boxes. How much you want from us is a sort of open-ended piece. And I think, you know, specifically relating to Terry's points about advertising could be something that the council could help with massively, I would assume.
Oh, there's an issue. I wouldn't commit either way at the moment. There's other stuff going on regarding advertising.
Okay.
Councillor Stewart might have something to say about that at another time.
Yeah, it's an agenda item later on.
Yeah,
Oh, is it?
yeah.
Okay.
So I wouldn't like to commit on that.
Okay, I'll take that bit back.
Okay, that's.
But in general, we have been pushing hard about supporting any volunteering efforts. So it links to everything else we've been doing so far. I wouldn't see why we wouldn't want to jump at the opportunity.
Thank you, that would be wonderful. And the volunteer commitment is very flexible. I think the Berry project, they ask for the bike riding volunteers, so the riders of it, to do 3 sessions a month, which is only 2 hours a time, which is really not very much at all. A lot of them do a lot more, but that's the minimum requirement, and they're all trained and DBS checked. So, and that's something that we get involved with.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Carla, I think you were next.
Yeah, so partly responded to my first question, which is going to be how you train the volunteers. I'll make sure they are up to security standards, basically. Whether they would be controlled by yourselves or by the organizations that are sort of chipping in and referring for the use of the rickshaw itself. So it's how and who will manage the volunteers per se. So you said that they will be DBS checked and
They will
that
be
they can all
DBS
cost with that and all that
checked.
stuff.
Absolutely, they will be trained and there will be ongoing training for them. Just so you're clear about it, the Community Foundation, what we would, our sort of preferred method, if you like, is to bring new ideas, innovation and models to the table. And as Billy says, involve local community as much as possible in shaping what it could look like, because each location would have a different requirement, of course. And out of that, one would hope, and this is what normally happens, an individual or 2 individuals or an organisation that's already in existence takes on the responsibility of working with those volunteers and ensuring that they're looked after in the way they need to be looked after. And we sit behind that and help with anything that we can, but we dip in and out. So we would not be central to running it. That's absolutely not what we do. What we try and do is bring it all together, ensure that the right partners around the table.
So it would be, so it would
We
be,
have people like Brandon and District Rotary who will be on the steering committee, and they are particularly interested to see and shape what happens here with a view to reflecting that across in Brandon as well. So they may be one of the people that step up, or one of the organisations that steps up to be sort of the main organiser as such. But there's several people on the steering committee who are really well placed actually to be offering that kind of lead.
Okay, Matt and then Stuart, please.
I think
Sorry, do you want to come back, Carla?
I wasn't finished, but I can wait.
Yeah.
That's okay, go on then. I'll come around to it.
I can see a lot of hard work come into it, and it's something I really look forward to seeing it develop and something happy to endorse. I don't think as town council we should be involved. I understand man hours are going to be quite small, but I think there's a lot happening at the moment. There's a lot going on. It is part one of my concern. I don't think we should then add another string to our bow. I think we need to look at what we currently have our staff doing at the moment before we start adding extra responsibilities that are external to the roles as council staff. But then my other concern as well is, I'm just trying to phrase it in my head properly. Come back to me. That's part one. Go to Stuart. I'm trying to think what I want to say in a
So let's do it in then.
Right, I do agree with Councillor McDonald's, it ticks all the boxes. However, my concern is the fact that Thetford is different from Bury St Edmunds, and the traffic around the town is not very good at the moment. So what congestion would these cause by coming around the town when a lot of it's pedestrianised, and you're only going to really come up Wells Street and down Guildhall Street to access anything of our heritage?
I think I'd like to comment on that particular point, if I may. When I went around on the trial run, I did choose a route because I knew the town, obviously. And the driver felt that the route would be better than what he was doing in Bury St Edmunds, as it happens. And the route would involve mainly King Street, which is pedestrianised, and some of the riverside paths. I was very surprised that they thought they could use the riverside paths in their present condition, but that was the suggestion. They were happy to do that. So I think I kind of feel on the point, on that specific point about interfering with traffic, it would be pretty minimal.
Well, on the subject of King Street, it's a non-cycling zone. So if you're letting rituals go down, you can hold out cyclists go down there.
You can argue that the alternative, yeah, I agree with you. The alternative is simply to turn immediately left out of the assuming it starts on the Market Square, and go down straight to the river, and then go along as far as perhaps Nuns Bridges, return that way. I mean, it's a fair point that you can argue that we shouldn't be disapplying the rules that exist to suit ourselves. But I think that's a good alternative. And to be honest, there's no reason why they can't pause and talk in the market about King Street if the residents who happen to be on the bike are interested in it. So I think the main thing really is to get out of the urbanised zone, if you like, and get a little bit further away.
It interested me about the point about the riverside, which is absolutely where we were thinking this really lovely route. Bretland Council has suggested that they do have some funding available to improve, to ensure that it's able to run smoothly, benefit people and
Yeah, please.
I'm a pedestrian. I walk a lot. I walk around. You're all bored when we're saying this. I walk around Thetford an awful lot. Cycles are a nightmare, especially on places like Spring Walk. And I'm jumping about trying to avoid them. I'm concerned for myself, but I'm concerned more for what happens when the inevitable accident does occur.
I think these rickshaws, it's a very sedate pace. It is not like a cyclist would.
No,
it's a very sedate.
but it's going to happen.
I absolutely take your point, and it probably will happen. But there are risks that you can mitigate against and others that you can't. So
Okay.
We have to accept that might be a possibility.
Matt again?
Sorry, thank you for bearing with me. The point I was trying to make is endorsing it, I think would be great as a council to endorse. But I think the idea of us taking booking means to the public we become synonymous with it. And it's not something I think as a council we would want to, when I say have the image of it being ours, not in a bad way, because it's a lovely initiative, but to the public it looks like it is our thing, and that's not something that we'd want. So I think for endorsement, I think we should all absolutely phenomenal idea, but I think for any sort of council involvement, I don't think it's pertinent.
Thank you. I think my feeling from what I'm hearing around the table is that is the first we would want to go today, just to give a kind of polite endorsement, so that we're not stopping it, we're not attempting to obstruct it, but equally we're staying away from it for a variety of reasons. Personally, I think I would have liked more than that, but that's the feeling I'm getting around the table. Do you want to add to that, Carla?
Yeah, I was supposed to come back to it, so I will. In principle, I support the idea. I like the idea. I like the fact that it's electric, it's friendly to the environment, gets people out. The whole social prescribing of it, I keep hitting the drum about it. So it's one of the areas I keep pushing forward. So all about getting people outdoors and doing things and being less isolated. I'm all for it. I think the issue with the pass is a real one. I think the issue with the King Street, because we try to block cycles from crossing it, so this is something that needs to be reviewed. I think the routes need to be looked at with more detail to make sure it works and it doesn't conflict with other things. And providing that you have all your ducks lined up by all the organizations that will be running it, I'm in full support of it. I don't mind so much that council runs the bookings or not, but I do understand some of the concerns that people may take it as is a local authority thing. It's a government project rather than it's a community project. But they'll feel that there's been an appropriation of the project if the town council's names is across it, so plastered all over it. People that feels they have to approach the council to access the project, which may put some people off for whatever reason, because as friendly as we are, not everybody thinks we're majorly
I was
friendly.
going to say that. So you see that.
And that may be a bit off-putting, but I'm in favor of the project because I think that's got value for the social private sector.
Yeah.
Terry, again, please.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it would be a lovely thing. The end product, what we finish with, I think would be superb. I also think we're nowhere near that at the moment. And I think as a council, we shouldn't be endorsing this until we've got a business plan, a structure, an idea of where you're going to go, what you're going to do and all the rest of it. Because at the moment, it is quite vague.
Well, it is, because this is the whole idea, is introducing the idea.
Okay, so it feels like the weight is falling on us to do that. And I feel the weight should be on the steering group and you to come up with a more structured view of how it's going to work and what it looks like.
So we have the option perhaps of the endorsement, but the feeling that perhaps do we need to set up a subgroup to communicate, to talk with, for example, Norfolk Community Foundation, so that it's clear that those concerns that you've expressed are being dealt with?
Well, I'm already on the steering committee anyway, so.
So can you remind us who else is on the steering committee?
Who else?
It's David, yourself, Louise Varney, who's the community connector from Breckland Council. We've got the lady from Enable.
Yes, Ben Hutchinson.
So we've got Sandra from
Christine Lincoln, Sandra Turner and Maurice Stainsby from Brandon Rotary, Brandon District Rotary, Judy and myself. I think there's something.
Richard Bridgman.
No, but this is not that. I think the council has to keep a different aspect. So it would. What I was talking about really was more a group from within the council, which could satisfy the council that the T's are being crossed and the I's dotted, which I think you made clear you didn't know was happening.
That's my concern. Yeah.
Okay, so can I suggest then, going forward, that we endorse it in principle, but that we say that we think a lot of work needs to be done and we need ourselves to set up a subgroup to discuss further with and look for more information about what the proposals are. Terry, you have indicated that you would be willing to be on this subgroup.
Yeah.
Are there others, please, who would like to join? And I've got two immediately, so sorry, are you volunteering or are you?
I was just going to make the point of, I know we don't meet particularly often, but it's quite a small group, the Heritage and Events group anyway.
We often have groups of about 3, to be honest, Adam. I think it often works well. I'm happy if it could be, for example, Carl and Adam and Terry, that would be fine as far as I'm concerned.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Happy with that? Okay.
I'm quite happy. I mean,
Okay, so can I invite you to agree to those 2 points and can we move on at that point? So are you agreeable that we endorse it in principle and we set up a subgroup of 3, you've heard the names, and we get on with it?
will do.
Okay? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. What I'd like to do next is to move on to item 547 for the same reason as we put that early, which is we've got guests or members of the public, and it's a bit unfair to keep them waiting forever and a day. So 547 is the Honoured Citizens Award. I should say, by the way, that those who finished their item can stay or leave. Please, is that?
Preferably, but you're free to go.
The Honoured Citizens Award
Funny.
receive and discuss an update. I'm not sure whether that's coming from you or whether it's coming from a member of the public.
No, it's really for us to have an update of where we are with the Honest Citizens Award, really. So, I mean, I can lead on that if you want.
Thank you. Yes,
So,
please.
yeah, so at one of the previous meetings, we did discuss that due to the fact that we received no nominations at one point, we extended the deadline and then we got into a position where we were struggling to find an adequate event to award the said Honoured Citizens Award. And we decided as a committee to approach the organiser of the Taras, who we have present, which is Mark Robinson, to ask whether that we could use the Taras as we host them within the Carnegie, our Honoured Citizens Award. And Mike and I had a meeting with Mark and he agreed to do that. And he agreed to forfeit, if you like, if that's the right term, one of the awards that he usually presents to accommodate our award, which was Service in the Community Award. Since then, we changed the framework of the nominations to include councillor recommendations as well. And having said that, we still have only 4 nominations, but we have committed to the Taras Award, which is the 4th of February, 3rd of February, Saturday, the 3rd or 4th of February, whichever one that 3rd. And we will be delivering our award within that programme of events. So tonight, at some point, we do have to decide how we are going to determine who the recipient of that award will be. We cannot do it in public because obviously we have to try and protect the winner's identity for the sake of the awards night. So we either have to do that in the very short foreseeable future because the deadlines are very close, or we go below the line at a later time within this meeting to discuss the 4 nominations. And that's where we are.
I think that last point is really important. The way the Taras work is that there have been a number nominated and they're aware of their nomination, but no one knows who has actually been selected. So that's found out on the night, which gives us a part of the entertainment value or the reason of the night is that you go, you're invited to go, and you may or may not win an award if you've been one of those nominated. We want to keep to the spirit of that since we're proposing to join the Tara Awards. So it is important that we don't, in a large group, I would suggest, discuss who should be the nominated person of the 4 who've been put forward. So we need to find a way around that particular difficulty. And as you said, timely. So it could even be a question of a group meeting at the end of this meeting, but certainly in the near future. I would suggest that even with 7, that's a large number of people who've all got to manage not to say a single word to a single soul between now and the beginning of February. So I'd suggest to you that it should be 1 or 2 or 3 people, rather not 1, but 2 or 3 people making the decision. Are there any comments, please? Well, perhaps I'll invite Mark Robinson to add to that, if you'd like to, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. The only reason I've attended tonight is at least after you've been to Taras, you're aware the format is purely a community award to celebrate what is a pretty tremendous community, actually. The only reason I put my hand up to say something, actually, I actually organise, but I don't vote. And that's quite important to maintain the integrity of the event. The awards are actually created down to the person who makes the awards doesn't know who the winners are, and that's the evening. But it's generally 5 or 6 judges, and we've never. David's been a judge for a number of years now, and David, when we do the winners, the judges don't meet, by the way. So every individual vote, the only person that knows on the night who the winners are is my good self, and it's self-defeating if I actually make that information public. But the point I was trying to get across is I've never yet since 2015, and anyone breach to your numbers actually as a group, don't, as the organiser, don't concern me. So I'm quite excited to be working with you guys because I want the awards to have a life beyond me.
Comments, please, colleagues.
The only thing I would say is I agree with Adam. I think we're quite a small group. I don't see why we can't all be involved. It spreads the love a little bit. And, you know, Mark's already said that it doesn't concern him. So rather than trying to divide it into another small team.
I just want to clarify. So because some of the councils that nominated, as Sparkles has been linked with them, some of them have nominated people for the awards. I mean that the ones that will make that, you know, steering group that decides or whatever, the judges, have to be the ones that didn't nominate, because otherwise there's that conflict there. So I'm just trying to leverage who can do it and who can't. So we can work with the numbers.
Are you able to?
Yeah,
The nominators are.
So the only one, there's two councillors that sit on this committee that would have a conflict in terms of deciding who, and that would be Matt and Ron.
Okay. So Matt and Ron, and for the sake of impartiality, if somebody wants to nominate, then they should step down from being a judge, because it's logical. So, sorry, Matt.
I
mean, makes sense.
No, I agree.
If I nominated someone, which I haven't at this point, I would say, no, I can't be a judge if I nominated.
Yeah,
Which is the right thing to do. So will the other ones just kind of push themselves forward, or will all of us do it? That's what I'm trying to figure out this and that. So how's it going to work?
Well, in the past, part of our terms of reference is that this committee has the ability to resolve the decision. We don't have to recommend to full council. It's this committee that makes that decision, and council standbys that. So, you know, apart from the fact that you've raised a conflict within the committee, apart from that, it's the members of this committee that would make that decision. Whether it's 2 or 3 or the remaining committee members is up to you guys.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a proposal, please, as to the way forward?
Could I ask, so we're going for the Honest Citizen Award, right?
Yes.
So with the Tara's mark, is there a similar award with that? Like, do they run close? Are they sort of like almost like a like award with the Tara's?
There's 9 awards on the evening, 6 of where the public nominations is, and there's 3 special awards. And one of them has been dropped to accommodate the citizen. I will make this comment just because you invited me to talk, and you know I can. Honoured citizen, just like you think about going forward, is very 19th century. It doesn't actually speak to the community. The award we've dropped this service to the community, the 2 that are left that are unique are lifetime achievement and outstanding contribution. And the outstanding contribution specifically in there, because people can make an outstanding contribution in a month, or they can devote a lifetime to make an outstanding contribution. It shouldn't always be on time served. That is the essence of the Tara's Day. They are very much about celebrating our community and those people that do things within without any personal gain.
I'm not hearing a specific proposal. Can I make one and suggest that we appoint not more than 3 of those present who are not themselves people who've nominated like that, to meet as soon as possible, and possibly even to stay a little bit longer after the end of this meeting in order to make the decision. If you're happy with that, is there anyone who would like to take part in that activity? Yeah. I've got 2.
I don't mind.
And I think 3 is absolutely the maximum. We've got Mac and Stuart. If you're happy with 3, I'll add Carla, because you were the third to say. Okay. And I would remind those 3 individuals that they have to get information from David, and then they've got to make a decision, and they have not got to spread it to anybody. other than through the necessary channel, which I think is probably David again. So what we're suggesting is that the three of you stay at the end of this meeting, if that's at all possible, make the decision, tell David. Job done, and then job forgotten.
Just a quick question / statement. How were the other nominees submitted? Did everyone fill the form in correctly and do all the big spiel about why and so on?
Everybody filled the form in correctly, and they gave a supporting blurb. Whether it was detailed or not is another thing. And I mean, we was talking prior to this meeting when Mark were talking about this agenda item, and that's a perennial problem, really. We urge people to sell their nomination, tell us, really enthuse about it. And sometimes it is literally David Brooks. I nominate David Brooks because he's a good guy and he's done well in the community, and that's it. I will tell the three how the nomination was presented. Some of them are better than others.
Look, that's the reason I asked, because I was under the impression from the last meeting, when we allowed councillors to do it, that we would have a chance to present our person, which is probably why my entry's not got a lot of detail on it, because I was expecting me and the other councillors to present to the smaller panel why we chose that person.
Which makes sense.
So my panel, mine might be a couple sentences, because I was expecting to verbalise, because that's the impression I gathered.
I think we have to stick to what's been said. Simply, Matt, I would take your point entirely, but really we're looking at a timescale now, and I do have a continuing concern, and I'll bore you by saying it again, that we do need to bear in mind the importance of privacy. So the more people who know, the less chance there is of it being private when we get to the date. That's my concern. It doesn't really affect the other Tara Awards, but this one is a group of people who are accustomed to talking to the public, sharing opinions, asking advice. It's just too easy for the name to pop out at some stage. So as far as I'm concerned, the fewer people who are involved, the better, which is why I was hesitant about saying even three. So all I can suggest, and it's a bit puny, but all I can suggest is at the end of the meeting, if you feel you want to say a few words, get David to write them down to add to your comments. If you feel your comments aren't going to make the point.
Sorry, Chair. Quick suggestion. I mean, if it feels like the input you're putting on the paper is not sufficient, he wants to add something else, you can do it while we're still in the meeting. And then when we go off, when we go under the line, just to decide, then we have the full information plus the add-on that, just to be fair on him, to give him the chance to put in the extra detail in it, and help us make a decision.
Yeah.
And then we'll go down and decide. I think it'll be fair. Thank you.
Everyone happy with that?
Yeah. Yes.
In which case I'm going to go back to the order of events on the schedule and say that we're on that now on 543, which is an update on mayoral and civic events, which turn to David for.
So I've circulated the report. I've got nothing too much to add to what was written and circulated.
Take the opportunity to wish you all very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Apart from the fact that on both the events that were highlighted in the report, they were very well received. Again, although I've made a couple of references to the parade is not our responsibility, but we do support the Royal British Legion with facilitating the parade by making sure that the marketplace is presentable and the War Memorial is clean and tidy and ready for the reclaim, which we did. And we also provided gazebos and such like to help. The reception was attended by a good number of people in the Carnegie afterwards, and again, it was met with some good feedback. Carol service went without a hitch, but that's a regular event within the civic diary. And Kerry reported back that she was quite happy with the way things went. So I don't know whether there's any questions. We did have the untimely death of John Wayne prior to the remembrance. So Rob, who stood in for him, very late time was, again, he came to the reception afterwards and he's got one or two ideas for next year, but I think he did as well as could be expected with that untimely event.
Mac?
Just one on this, it is one of the biggest events that the town hosts, not necessarily the council. And whilst it was a good event this year, you know, this is 2 or 3 years in a row where some things have gone wrong that perhaps the council may have been able to help out for. A lot of comments have been made about whether we take the blame for things that perhaps the RBL get wrong sometimes. And, you know, I know that a lot of the other councillors were saying that perhaps we ought to take a bit more of the responsibility of the running of it and allow them to do the little bit of a parade on its own, because the responsibility is too much for them. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Not needed saying, and I think whatever we, you know, it may well be that one more year, and then perhaps we'd need to take care of it to a large extent. And I think we certainly suffer, as you rightly say, from the fact that the public assume that the council is in charge and judge accordingly if there are mistakes made or opportunities missed. So, yeah, point well made. Matt.
Just a comment. Many year observer, first time take parter. From a first time take part, I think I'm aware of the flaws and what were wrong, and thank you, Mike, for pointing that out because it did need pointing out. But I thought a really well done to all the staff here in the RBL as well. My only concern was, as a first time person, and obviously the next 3 years we're not going to be first timers, but I had genuinely no idea what I was doing on the day, and I don't feel I was told properly. Like I got robed. I robed myself, but I put my robe on, and then it was like, now just follow the person in front.
That's
It
what
would
I
have
got when I first done it.
It would have been great to be told, you know, you're gonna go this way, you're gonna come out on the steps, you will wait. You'll then go on the courtyard area, you will then wait again. This will all happen, you'll then march down. When we walked down the street, I nearly walked past where we all stood. I've never done it before, and when I've been a family member, I've never gone down that path either. But just for future reference, obviously, the next few years we'll all know it more, but God knows what will happen at the next election round. If for new councillors, I think it'd be good for a little briefing of exactly what's going to happen on the day, because I didn't know where to go.
Well,
So, yeah, first thing is, I really enjoyed it. I didn't not despite myself. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. That's the first thing to say. And I really did. I think this is an issue, again, about communication between council and councillors. And I agree with Matt. And I think we do need better and more communication. If we're to make this a success, and this rolls into what you're saying, the council need to be a bit more proactive with everybody, so it's more organised. We got away with it, I think.
Yeah, we did. I'd just like to come back, if I may, on one thing. I mean, these events always look great, and there's always somebody like David in the background practically paddling to make it work.
Exactly.
And some of that is unnecessary angst, and that's the point I'm trying to get to. You know, a great event, let's make it a lot smoother. So I'm quite content to write up a programme of events for it, because I've done it for so many other parades. It's quite simple, and actually the bit that the council plays, I can write that and then put it out to this committee and say, yeah, we like that, we don't like this, and we can decide what we want to do with it. You may not be aware, but this year, and partly due to John Wayne's passing, the RAF Honington were moments from not coming at all, because of such a violent disagreement with what the RBL were telling them to do. And for a group that has got the freedom of the town, that's really bad, because actually the RBL was speaking for this town on our behalf, and that's wrong. You know, they were discrediting what we stand for, which is a shame for the RBL, but more of a shame for us, actually. So it's bad for our reputation, and I'll finish on that. If that's okay.
Well, you began by making an offer, and I wouldn't want to miss that.
No.
So the offer was that you would write a script, as it were. If I'm probably putting the wrong word in your mouth, but that's what it amounts to.
That's great.
Thank you. I think that's the best of the council working together to get things done, isn't it? And if we're going to be blamed for any perceived failures, then I think we have to be instrumental in its success, don't we?
I think the truth of the matter is we're two groups here, Terry. We're the new councillors who can see all the problems, and the old councillors who can see how it's been done in the past.
Okay.
And ne'er the two shall meet. But actually, it's really important that they do meet, because you're absolutely right about communication. First thing you said, and that's clearly something this council needs to keep working on.
I'll put no blame anywhere.
But no, you won't. But I do think that we've got to recognise that even if the Royal British Legion wanted to continue to run it in the future, it's unlikely to happen. So it might well be that next year is the time when we have to say we assume a bigger responsibility. And I think we could start by accepting your offer, Matt, to draw up a programme. Again, I'm probably using a grander word than you did. So that the issue that was raised earlier, that councillors turned up not knowing on earth what they were expected to do, which has been the tradition, ends. The tradition ends. You know.
Yeah.
That's good.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should take up Mac's offer. You know, he's years and years of experience.
Absolutely.
It's just a total no-brainer.
Yeah. Okay.
I think, if I may, our next meeting is the 21st of February.
Yes.
So I'll be happy to present it at that meeting, if we may.
This is going to come around quickly.
Because if we don't do it by February, then, people will already start spinning things up in their own mind.
Yeah.
And I would like to get it passed at the next meeting, agreed, and then we can start doing our engagement with RBL and others to make sure that they're on board with it.
Well, I'm a great believer in each councillor putting in their own expertise, and so I think that's an area where you're very strong, and we're very grateful. I wasn't sure whether you wanted to say something. I know Carl does.
Yeah.
Good points. First, thanks to Mark, because going to put the work in and he's the right person for it. That to kind of brings the board together and to get things done proper, which is brilliant. Secondly, trial by fire. As a new councillor myself, first time around, I had no idea what was going on and what I was supposed to do. This and turn right, turn left, and I was just hoping I would get it right. So that is a little bit more that could be done on that front. So I sympathize with the new councillors. I've been there, so we all been through it, and it is a bit stressful. Perhaps we could just maybe 5 minutes to explain before the event takes over in like a council or something. To the new council, say, look, stay for 5 minutes. We're going to explain the route we're going to take and what's going to be first, second, and third. Just so when the day comes, everybody knows what they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing without creating that add-on stress. So that's basically it. And the rest we can get on with.
Yeah, please.
So firstly, I think there's a fine line between being proactive and being bullish. And that's how we will come across with the Royal British Legion. We'll be deemed as very bullish. So I think in the first instance, I think we need to, if you want to open communications, we need to send them a letter of offer that we should sit down with them and support officially and help them deliver the parade next year, rather than just come up with a way we should do it. And then, I mean, it's disappointing really that we have had this and we've constantly said that, we would help. We do help. We do support them in peripheral things like offering gazebos and cleaning, blah, blah, blah. But there's a line where, no, we are in charge. It's our event and we have to respect that. It's a disappointing fact that actually some of the members of the current Royal British Legion are ex-councillors. So they've been on the other side as well. You would think that they would want to try and iron out those disagreements and discrepancies. So that's a little bit disappointing. The other thing that's disappointing is that we have a civic secretary who has been with the council for a long time, and she is very experienced in the way things should be run. If there are criticisms of not being aware of things, then I would like that to be reported back to me so I can have those conversations with staffing. We are running around. We operate Remembrance Sunday because this weekend, this event was a classic example. We had a run up of events where we were on short staffed and basically we were running around doing a lot of things. So I can't be shadowing people as well. So if we have underperformed in a way, I would like to know so we can rectify that. It's disappointing if this has happened year on year. I know they have a briefing. I've seen the briefing papers is clearly not being briefed to councillors, so I can sort that out for future events. But I do think that we should offer our support in the first instance before we start putting together a programme of this is how we're going to do it. One of the things that they failed this year because things have changed. Resources are being diminished. They didn't close Well Street off officially because police wouldn't support that. If we are going to take it on, we are going to be responsible for those sort of things. We have to have a 6-month lead in. So by April, we need to know where we stand. I did have a conversation with a member of the Royal British Legion who questioned who did that. And I said, it's your opinion, you've done it year on year. I'll change that in the future, was his answer. Okay, well, we can change that, but we need a discussion as to whose role and responsibilities they are. I'm quite happy to take that on, but I'm not doing it unless everybody buys into it in terms of Royal British Legion ourselves.
Just as an aside, I had a rather interesting encounter, and I'd rather you didn't pass it on to anybody. But after the event, they asked me to stand as chairman.
Hang on,
We're recording, is that
we're
okay?
recording.
That's fine. I'd rather you didn't.
We were okay.
I'd rather you didn't discuss it because I turned it down for many reasons. I haven't got the time to do it, and it needs a lot of time. But what I did leave them with was, look, I really want to help you in another way. I'm a councillor presently. I'd like to help you with anything you've got going forward for any of your events. So the olive branch was put out, and I'm going to try and do it in as less a bullish way as I possibly can. But what I want to do is definitely say, listen, we're going to take some responsibility from you. We're going to help rather than you got it wrong. We're going to put it right, if that makes sense. But of course, there'll be another group to decide what you can do, what we can't do, what's the realms of right and wrong. But yeah,
I mean, that would help us hugely because, again, you know, the ongoing issues every year is that the expectations for us is this and this until 8 o'clock on the Sunday morning when they actually ask for this and this. And for us, it meant additional running around. We pulled it off, as to be always we usually do. And some of the members of staff that were actually the sort of mace bearer at the event 2 hours earlier were running around cleaning, you know, this, that and the other. So we did put a huge effort into the day. But actually, I'd like it a little bit more, you know, thought through. Yeah.
okay, done.
I'm very grateful for your input, Mac. I think you're probably in an ideal position to be able to bridge between the council and the Royal British Legion, and you know the people concerned better than any or perhaps most of us for sure. So is everyone happy to leave that there? Okay, so thank you very much indeed, everyone. This came out of, I suppose it's really items 543 and 544. Are we on to 544?
Yeah.
So let's take again, David.
Yeah. So the biggest town event that's happened since the last meeting, obviously, is the Christmas light switch on event and weekend. Last year, we said that it was bigger and better than years before. I think this year was even better than last year. The feedback, this year was the first time we've had a Continental Market, festive market that was along King Street. We've had a few charity stalls in the past. We used to turn the lights on from King Square. But this time we actually had Santa arriving on the river. And again, rather than just having a few visitors greeting him, all the work that Amber and Katie have done within the schools meant that they actually had 200 school children along the riverside with lanterns and the other paraphernalia, drumming and singing songs. It was the best arrival event that we've had for the last few years. It's a big effort to get Santa to come along the river, and this is the first time I can look back on it and think all the effort was worth it. It was tremendous. And then we usually transfer Santa into his more traditional sleigh and drive him through the town onto the market square. And again, as Thetford usually do with some of the big events, Remembrance Sunday was a classic example. Christmas Light Switch On is another. They come out in their thousands to support the event, and the market square and town centre were full on the night. The craft fair and the other Santa experiences carried on through Saturday and Sunday. The feedback from the stallholders was that they had a great weekend and were very pleased with what went on. So all in all, I think pretty much all the feedback was positive. Yes, there's always things that we can do better. I think next year, I think Friday night switch on is pretty much secure. But I think we need to do more on the Saturday and Sunday to keep that momentum going. So that's our objective for 2024 in terms of making the whole weekend more of a spectacle than just Friday night. But I think, yeah, the team did pretty well. Hopefully everybody will agree with that. Any questions?
Yeah, Matt.
Just because it's the right committee to mention it, I know it has been mentioned in other ones. It was a really good event, and I think that I'm probably just easily amused, but I think the snow on the scaffolding was quite a nice surprise. But I think the biggest letdown was the sound system. I was within throwing distance of the mayor, and I couldn't hear a word he said.
No,
we were very close to each other. I think you were just down the ramp as well.
Yeah.
You were nigh on right there, and we were just on the ramp at the Guildhall.
So,
not a word.
So someone who is a technology numbskull, I will deliver. That was one of the things in our internal debrief that we highlighted, because there was a lot of chatter on social media to say that they couldn't hear.
Yeah.
So whether this is technology right or not, I don't know. But because of the scaffolding, we usually have the sound system very close to where they do the light switch on. In the past, they would have been on top of the steps. The sound system would have been there. The sound system was around by the scaffolding. The switch on was on the stage. The stage was quite low. There were thousands of people surrounding that area. It's a Wi-Fi mic. And I stood on that stage with Kate, and it was in and out. And it was simply because it was being surrounded by bodies. Then all of a sudden it worked, and we thought, miracles happen. They've got us out of a hole. By the time I got back to the little gazebo, it started coming in and out like a comedy sketch. So unfortunately, yes, if I had to pinpoint anything that we failed on, we did fail on that. She did at the last minute say I can run a physical connection from the sound box to the mic, but we had hundreds of people around there and it would have been a health and safety nightmare. So I took the decision that we're going to go with it. Luckily, those people in some respects around the stage did join in with the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, countdown. And one of the things I hate about Christmas Light Switch On is when we get to one, the guy at the top who actually turns the things on hears it. And I'm panicking with the mic, but it was perfect. So yes, I apologise that technology let us down. And it's something that we do need to look at.
It's not something you need to apologise for, don't.
And it's something, to be fair, Matt, we do need to look at our sound system for outdoor events, because you can argue in the past, and we've had other councillors say this, Remembrance Sunday is another one, so we need to upgrade our outdoor outdoor,
Same here, mate.
outdoor system. And that's something we're looking at, so.
That is a piece of system that is needed for multiple events throughout the year. Because it's an investment
an investment.
that the council needs
Yeah.
to start looking into as well.
We are addressing the issue of the internal concerns. I think the external is something that we need to, I mean, you made the point, you're not an expert. I don't think we have an expert as a member of the staff team at the moment, and it's unfair to blame the staff.
Well, one of the things that we have looked at, just to try and find a solution, is behind the ramp is the gazebo store. We've got a little system in there that plays some backing music when we have some of the lesser attended events like Seaside Special when the kids are in the sand pit. And there's a way that we can make more of a physical connection. So there's a little connection box behind the stage that we can plug into, a bit like an Ethernet cable, if you like, that's plugged into the system. So there's no trailing wires. So health and safety, big tick. So we are looking into it. I think we can improve it. We can certainly make sure it's right for remembrance and switch on it.
Subcontract it for certain events. So, because, you know, I'm aware that Vic Peters' son.
Yeah, Styx does a lot of stuff at the Carnegie. Yeah, Styx does a lot of stuff at the Carnegie, and that's a good shout, actually. Yeah,
If he's got all the equipment.
yeah. Usually, when it's a different event like Foodie Friday, everything is there, but the sound desk was a way away in a gazebo. It was too far away, and I didn't want trailing wires when I knew there was going to be that kind of volume of people in the.
It is a big ask, isn't it, to communicate with people from those steps out to the people leaning against the post office wall.
I was going to say, I can't remember where it was. I think it's in Northern England, and I went to an event, and what they had was they had brackets built on the walls of shops.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody. I goes, what are they for? Is that, you know, part of the hanging baskets? And they goes, oh no, that's where they put all the speakers, you know, for events. I goes, oh really? So they're already built in, and they got about 8 of them. You know, went all the way around. They must have been Bluetooth, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything more about it than that, but it's a system they've obviously bought,
Yeah.
tried, tested, it works, and then they put it away again. And I'm guessing that's kind of what we'd end up with, because if you end up trying to make something that we've already got work and do a job that you want, it might not.
We've got to look at something better than that.
Something more on the ground that's that
Yeah.
high out of the way.
And when we're looking to do more and more big events on the marketplace, we need to invest in that. I mean, it's a bit like, you know, when you go to some of the holiday camps, you have speakers around. It's something like that we need. And then again, there's an area that we've just put power into, which is that little caged area in the shambles. So again, our sound desk can be in that area. So again, it's more. There's way we are looking at it. It's one of the things that we've flagged. We will find a solution.
If it turns out that we need to spend money, and obviously the kind of thing that Matt was talking about is a fair amount of money, then really we need to make a decision in time for that to be taken into account with the planning for the finances for next year, do we not? So I think we just need to bear that in mind.
No,
Terry?
no, we did have a discussion regarding the internal microphones at getting mics sorted for council meetings. This was put up as a last minute proposition, but we had no briefing in terms of how much it would cost. Vic said anywhere between, I think it was £6,000 and £20,000. Having said all that, I do think that rather than trying to make the best of what we've got, I think we need to start from this fresh, don't we?
Well, we've talked about being more ambitious. We've talked about more activity on the council. We recognise that when there's a big crowd out, and we do get good support from the public of Thetford, then we are absolutely struggling at the moment. And what is not good is to find members of staff having to scrabble around on the night and put up a new system and do this.
I agree.
It needs, it's not.
So maybe it is Mac's system, maybe it's another one, but I think we need to get that investigated and get the best system for the job. I really do.
But short-term fix is speak to Aaron.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
Is that something we can do?
Yeah, we
okay,
definitely
so
can do. Yeah.
We may or may not be able to get this into the budget just for next year because it is a high cost item.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the meanwhile, we have a provision of sound to get us by until we have a definite
We are going to go on to another agenda item next that's going to be led by Matt. And if we are very successful in if we are successful in trying to attract what he's going to be talking about, maybe again, we can reinvest some of that money in improving those kind of things. So.
Matt.
A separate thing on the Christmas event. One of the things that as councillors we missed because we were being hosted elsewhere was the arrival of Santa on the river.
Yes.
Which I thought was a bit of a shame. I'd love to have seen it because it looked really good in the pictures. I don't know how we can link that and make us part of it in some way.
To be honest, Mac, that's a good shout. You could have easily made that because he came in at a time which allowed, well, actually Santa got back before you guys were probably congregating downstairs. So it's something internally we should have communicated with you and said, wouldn't it be great to come down there and show your face to 200 kids that are enjoying themselves? I mean, honestly, unfortunately, I couldn't get down there myself because I was doing stuff on the marketplace. And I said, if there was one thing I really was sad about the evening was that Kate and Amber had so much fun down there that I weren't part of it, because that is what we've been aspiring to for the last 2 or 3 years, that kind of, and the kids were absolutely amazing. So I've seen the videos and stuff. So
Trying to tell you something, David.
oh, yeah, they are. But yeah, so perhaps next year we can, for those councillors that want to come down, you can stand on the bridge and scream and shout as Santa comes down.
Throw snowballs at him.
Can I move us on, colleagues? Because we have got several items still to go. 5.5, event sponsorship framework to discuss sponsorships arrangements of events and identify councillor oversight responsibilities in respect of sponsorships. And we'd like to set up a framework. Lead councillor Matt Stirrup.
First agenda item. Thank you. I've been to a few events now, and I see some things. I do apologise by the way if no one got the supporting information. I'm going to read it out loud anyway. But I was locked out my server at work where I'd planned on typing it all out, so that was fun. I've been to a few events now where there's just a couple of things that have caught my eye that just concern me a little bit in regards to sponsoring our events. So right now, there are currently no arrangements in place relating to commercial sponsorship of Thetford Town Council activities. I do thank David for his reply. We've been having a conversation about this and a very, very good reply, so thank you for that. But as such, there's no plan to seek sponsors or identify what they could sponsor. There's also no councillor oversight or approval mechanism for determining the suitability of sponsors or defining what sponsors may receive in return for their sponsorship. Often councillors only find out about sponsorship and at the same time as they probably do at the event. There exists no ongoing log of sponsorship arrangements. So one of the things that caught my eye was we were at an event recently and a company had sponsored something. But the way in which it was presented came across sponsored the entire event. So we'll use the example of Thetford Town Council Christmas light switch on, sponsored by Joe Blogs. But the company, as far as I'm aware, actually sponsored the signage, not the event. So that to me is incredibly misleading. So the agenda item, I'll skip on a minute. So there are just two ideas that I think we should really try and narrow down. I think we should either be looking at a sponsor should sponsor an event. The money goes into a pot. I'm watching videos during my speech. The sponsor pays money into a pot for an event, and that money is divvied where it needs to go. And we say thank you to whichever company for sponsoring this event as a whole. Or if they wish to sponsor something specifically, we need to correlate that directly. So thank you for sponsoring the lights at the Town Council event. Thank you for sponsoring the high vises at that, because otherwise it looks like Thetford Town Council light switch on sponsored by a company which actually paid just to pay for postage or a high vis or paid for the lights themselves. It's giving power and promotion and advertising to companies who've paid for a small part of something. So the agenda item is to seek the committee's consent for a request that a sponsorship plan be produced for 2024-2025, outlining sponsorship needs and opportunities, including financial targets, which will detail the benefits for those opportunities. I remember in the past, a long time ago, there used to be like an A5, which one's the bigger one, A3 or A5? A3. Like an A3 sign outside which listed the sponsors of events, so to give them the promotion that they've paid for. I don't think that happens anymore. Also a request that a process be developed to ensure there's a mechanism for councillor oversight and approval of sponsorship arrangements. I think we are the council to attach our name to something. We need to make sure it's above board. We sign documents declaring any pecuniary interests. I think we should also be aware that if we're going to put our name to something, we need to make sure it's not a councillor's friend, or it's a council's relative, or it's something that's been vetted and verified. And that goes for every councillor. But also a request that these two documents are presented at the February 2024 meeting for us to approve. That's me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Couple of things to say about that. Firstly, I welcome it. Before I say that, I'm going to say apologies for my phone going off. That will be a £10 fine.
That will be, I'm telling you.
Yeah. This is an issue, I think, of the town council selling themselves short, isn't it? We're not getting full value for the sponsorship we're getting, or people are getting more value than they should from the sponsorship we're receiving, which in some cases would appear to be zero. You know, if you put your name on some bunting, we're getting no money at all, and we need to be better. There is an old saying, isn't there? Sunlight is the best disinfectant. A phrase meaning, you know, we need to be open and honest about how we go about our business. There's a phrase I use a lot, which is about using the sniff test to see how things, you know, how they smell. And I think we need to be above board about that as well. So I think this is a good move. I endorse it.
Thank you. Stuart?
Yeah, I think Matt's on a real winner on this one, because I think he's totally right. We are being sold short. And it's easy for someone to just say, I'll put a sign up and it's sponsored by so-and-so. And yet all they're doing is sponsoring their own company. It should be, you know, take like an event. This event is sponsored by so-and-so, and they give us sponsorship money for us to actually sort of hold it, basically. And then they can sort of apply their name anywhere.
I'll take Mac and then Carla.
It makes absolute sense that, and I'm surprised it hasn't been done before, if I'm really honest. I thought it would have been. My one question would be, and you said it right at the very beginning, we don't seek a lot of sponsorship.
Yeah.
So, and you've just shook your head, David, so you've answered my question. Yeah. So you know, having all the good stuff behind it, we're not looking for it in the first place, which is as worrying as all the stuff that we're not getting right afterwards.
Yeah.
So I think, and I appreciate that looking for sponsorship is a job in itself, can be.
So can I?
Go on. Please do. I'll come back to you.
I'll dig a hole and jump in first with my first comment. And my first comment is, and I think I brought this up at a previous meeting, and a couple of agenda items on, you'll see a finance report. On that finance report, you will see no reference to sponsorship at all. Now, I actually think most, not all, but most of the activities are within my team that could attract sponsorship. We've just shown 200 kids by Riverside and thousands in the market square. We did have a town sponsor a few years ago. They were town sponsor for a couple of years, and then, as most sponsors do, they've served their time, they've done their bit, they left. It was no one's responsibility to do it. And this is where I've dug a hole and jumped in. I look at it and think, no disrespect, but if I'm not going to get any kudos from sourcing sponsorship that can be reinvested in improving the events that my team get praise for, if you like, why am I putting the effort in? You know, if I get £10,000 and it goes into the big black hole to do what? I'm not getting the benefit. I would love to take this on. And Matt sent me some details of this. And that's what I've done today in terms of the kind of thing that we can look at, the kind of sponsorship that we can go for, the kind of opportunities that we can afford the sponsor. I think it's a no-brainer, but we really do need to look at it. I'm not sure, Matt, whether we actually put it into a pot. I think we need to be more specific with sponsors. So we give them value for their investment, so they actually know what they're getting. But I think there's a lot of opportunities there. One of the things that we used to do a long time ago was even the hanging baskets.
Yeah.
And actually the board that listed those was so large, it was as big as that door. And it stood outside this building on the front of King's House. And it listed all the businesses and individuals that I mean, I think it was something like, 20 quid that they put in. But there were so many of them that actually it amounted to quite a lot of money. And I think something like that. What I would love to do in the marketplace next year, in addition to the tree that's in St. Peter's, is to have another big community tree on the market square that people purchase their little baubles for £5. And you've got a couple of hundred adorning that tree as it goes up. That's going to pay for that tree and some that we can reinvest in switch on. So I think there's lots of opportunities. Sometimes it's not businesses. Sometimes it's Joe Blogs that want to just give £5 or £20, and accumulatively it amounts to a decent amount of money. But I think, unlike before, Matt, we now have a product which should be attracting sponsorship. So I think it's absolutely right. But what I would say is that sponsorship comes into our budget. This committee has the oversight of it. They control it.
So can we put something out on social media? Sorry.
Well,
Sorry.
it's tricky. I think Carl's been waiting a long time.
Sorry, no, sorry.
I've got you as well.
Almost like, the Heritage Events Committee are looking for sponsors for these events.
And that's the kind of thing that we can bring that back to February. I mean, you can all have a look at that. I can send it tomorrow, so you can all have a little look at it when you get bored of Christmas turkey. You can have a look and, but have a look at it, make your comments before the meeting, because really February, we do have to make a decision. If we need to tweak those things, you need to set me the brief to go out, because we need to hit the ground running from April onwards, because our events start then and go all the way through. So we need to try and secure something. The floral displays sponsors, whether they're contributions by individuals or businesses, we need to have that in place, because around about that time, we're putting the hanging baskets up, and the planters out. So.
Right, so it'd be great if we could get a copy of that so we can. In advance as well. I was just going to make a point from what you made a statement. I agree. And I think that at the moment there's a lot of issues with, a portion, the amount that is contributed towards how much recognition they get. That is something that really needed to be addressed. So thank you for that. And I think that would, by sorting this out and finding a strategy about giving value for money to sponsors in the right amount, would take away the issue of appropriation of events, which is the thing. If you label an event sponsored by, and people just assume it's all done by that company. Sometimes, like I said, it's a symbolic value. But it's about the people, perceptions matter, especially when you're doing public events with local authority. And it's about, again, passing on the right perception to the public of who's contributing towards what, being more clear and transparent about it. I think they needed a major revision, so it's great that you introduced that agenda item. And yeah, I think we need to do more about it. I'd like to have a copy of the thing so we can all just sort of see what the proposal, what ideas you sort of chip in. And perhaps we can, if there's anything else we can come up with, we can.
I agree. The example Matt gave was, a company sponsored the production of 2 banners.
Okay.
2 banners, which is probably the sum total of 50 quid to get those produced. But if you looked at those 2 banners, I take your point, you would think, do you know what, they're sponsoring the Christmas light switch on, and that's a huge event. That's worth a lot of money.
Because ultimately, that's what the public sees. It's perception matter, like I said.
Yeah.
It's about passing on the right perceptions to the public. We need to find a balance
Yeah.
of how to go.
The,
about it.
the spreadsheet in that proposal, though, shows us how we can be really proactive in communicating all these events, because we've simply got some money that we can reinvest in that. And then the last thing that's involved in that is the thank you to those sponsors.
Yeah.
But it's also, we could couple that with our thank you to all our volunteers, our conservation volunteers, our event volunteers. We could host it somewhere like King's House Gardens, even if we've got to pay the Stanleyport Trust to hire the gardens, we could go out there because it's nice.
Yes.
And I think that would be lovely in the summer if we could just say a big thank you to not just the sponsors, but everybody that gives up their time to put these things
the
on.
contribution in time,
Yeah.
not linear contribution, it's a massive amount of getting the events run. We
Well,
work with our
I shall-
volunteers activities, so that all of that needs to be sort of acknowledged for the sake
Yeah,
of whoever
exactly.
takes part. Timing, isn't it?
I'll send that round to everybody tomorrow. I'll send it to all the councillors, Mike,
Yeah,
not just this
that's
committee,
sensible.
but
Yeah.
this committee would have to,
We
we need to make a decision
Yeah.
in February.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we do, and I think we need to always bear in mind that our meetings are 2 monthly, so February becomes April, and then you're making decisions which are absolutely vital for the end of the year. So we need to keep a long way ahead of ourselves.
And also provide feedback to this so I can amend it to bring it pretty much as the councillors would like by February, so we can make a decision.
Terry, a long time ago, you did ask to speak.
I did. So a number of things. First one is regarding a thank you for the sponsors. I think that's really important. I was lucky enough a few years ago happened to be involved with a sponsor of Arsenal Football Club, so I got the opportunity to play on the pitch. Brilliant.
Yeah.
We haven't got Arsenal's pitch, but we've got stuff we can give, haven't we?
Yeah.
And I think that's really very important. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I wonder if it's almost a job in itself. Would you call it marketing?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's almost a job in itself. I'm concerned a little bit about workload, bandwidth, whatever you like to call it. It's a big job. So I'm just putting that out there.
It is, but we have to start from somewhere. And then.
I completely agree.
The roll, Terry, then it's.
And if the money starts rolling in, then we look at another position, I think.
And the other point that Matt made, which we shouldn't skirt over, is the ethical question. As a council, we should have
absolutely.
an ethical code. I mean, if you're going to use the sporting analogy, lots of sports now ban, various different tobacco products and things like that.
Absolutely. We can't be selling vapes, can we?
Well,
for instance.
yeah.
For
But
instance.
it wouldn't be ideal.
The
Some issues, that's the
the
point.
final point I'd make, I slightly disagree with you. I think the money should go back to the council as a whole and then redistributed via all committees. I don't think it's a good idea setting one committee against others. And I think there should be a sponsorship pot that is treated separately for all council activities.
We did speak once, which is going down your route, that actually it goes into a central pot.
Yeah.
And then what committees do is they almost pitch for a sum of money to do this.
I think that's.
So you would come up with a recommendation from a committee that went to whoever governed the sponsorship pot, which, I presume we can finance.
As long as it all goes into venues and comms, I'm fine.
But you don't even need to go that far, do you? If money's coming through sponsorship, it can be distributed just along with other funds that are distributed in a sense, rather than separating those funds out, unless there's a clear decision that the sponsorship is for a particular item.
I do think there has to be a degree of hypothecation, I'll get that word right, in the sense that, and I like your idea, it's budgeting according to value rather than, and that sum being discrete, I think leads to more imaginative uses of funds.
I take your point on board, that the money needs to be as best distributed as possible. I disagree that it should go to the mains of the council, merely because even if you look at any pointers, any draft of what they've put up together for following on Matt's proposal, is that people is going to sponsor a specific event. people sponsor the flower pots, people sponsor the bubbles for the Christmas season. So it's very time specific, and people are expected to sponsor that particular issue or that event, not necessarily shaping the money to be sponsoring the event next year or next spring. And I think it would be overcomplicating a little bit. Because if Christmas events and organizing comes under our committee, then the money needs to come to our committee, because if it goes to the Christmas, we need to sort out the Christmas and decide on it, as we've been doing. If then it goes to amenities and they say there's an event that you need to sponsor a stage or something, and a sponsor comes with 1,000 quid and says this is towards that event or towards that stage, then it would come under amenities, because that's where that event would sit, or that's
Yeah, I mean,
it is. I find that the sponsorship is specific for the purpose. We propose, we invite the sponsor to put the money and the time in.
I mean, one way that's correct, because the floral displays come under amenities.
And I was going to say that would come under the amenities committee, because this is something under their remit.
Yeah.
So I think it's about being more about the project and what the person or the company is sponsoring, rather than making a wider thing, because otherwise the sponsor's going to think, okay, I put 1,000 quid, but I was expecting to see it or be more visible in this particular event, or have my name on the sponsor or the banner, like they say on this particular event.
We can still do that.
Yeah, so I think it's a matter of giving the sponsor what he expects, and to keep us more credible, So I think it's more about project specific rather than council specific. That's just my point of view.
I don't think there's any difference, to be honest.
I think there is massively. I agree with Carla. And the reason I do is I get a lot of sponsors and donations for the Heritage Centre. And we've fallen foul in the past of using some money in other areas.
Yeah.
And I've found that the people who donate that money have a real expectation that it's used for what they gave it for. And it's been made very, very clear. So we've completely gone to a policy now where we give them bounds of what we're going to use it for, and try and give them some feedback, because they're giving the money, they want to see that what they paid for, they're getting in effect. And I think Carla's point is quite correct, actually, because this is about events. So the events we're seeking sponsorship for, I don't think the money should go into any other area. The other areas could ask for their sponsorship. That makes sense. We don't own sponsors.
I think it goes into a generalised pot, because we're all a council. I don't think you can hive off one committee against the other. That way, I think, leads to disharmony.
Yeah, but I think the low budget that the Heritage and Events Committee have, by having sponsored events, will increase their chance to make better events through sponsorship.
Matt, do you want to come back?
Yeah, how in my head, how I sort of do it, and sorry to impede, but I would have, when we go to reaching out to potential people to sponsor a lot of local businesses, we have a list of every event we've got coming up for the year.
Yep.
And with the hex, I use Christmas, it's an easy one. So Christmas light switch on, and then broken underneath that is all the little things that take part as that. So you can either sponsor Christmas Thetford light switch on, or you can sponsor a specific part that makes Thetford light switch on. Rather than a pot of money that goes for the year, because I think they will want to sponsor something exact.
Yeah.
So you can either pay money towards the light switch on as a whole, or you pay for the signage, you pay for the high visit. And therefore, we as the council need to make sure there's due diligence put in place to say, this high vis was sponsored by XYZ. This banner was.
Their names on the back, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but it just says light switch on, sponsored by brand. But that looks like light switch on, sponsored, the whole thing.
I mean, it does open up a lot of opportunities, because if you're then looking at someone that's also very sort of public facing, is the town team. So when you've got their work attire, you could have companies supporting improving Thetford, something like that, in terms of, so they're associated with the town team making our town centre, our town a better place to live, you know. So there's lots of opportunities to focus down on one. It's just that in the past, we have had an overall town sponsor and it was for a reasonable sum of money. If we had that opportunity, we wouldn't want to pass it up. But I think we're more likely to get those lots of little specific sponsors, certainly year one anyway, because they're going to be easy to sell.
We have to look. Okay. We have to look about it from the other side. As a sponsor, what would you want to see in return? So these people's business saving, they are sponsored, that are helping, but they want to see,
What they want to see is their name. What they want to see is their
They
name.
want to get the marketing out. They want to see it recognized exactly that, but they want to be recognized for that specific time, for that specific event.
But I think if you're,
Otherwise,
I have to disagree on that.
okay,
I think if you're sitting in front of a sponsor,
it's fine. It's just a different perspective.
if you're sitting in front of a sponsor and trying to sell them to sponsor Christmas Light Switch On, you can make that sound really, really attractive than sitting there saying, we'd like you to sponsor the town council's event programme. Yes, you can list.
Of course, you
can
in terms of what you asked for, it's very specific. I'm just saying that the money garnered, and we say, you know, you put all the, as you know, the comms out saying that they sponsor this, and this, and we could do a really good job on that. In terms of where the money goes, that's different, and I'm not sure, having sort of worked to a small degree with this sort of thing, the money just that where it goes is not really important. They are buying a piece of advertising, not an event.
So can I just venture that in February, when we make the decision on the bones of it, it will have to be a recommendation to full council anyway.
Yeah, of course.
So full council can argue 2 weeks later.
I think that's reasonable, and we've been here a bit tonight.
That's the right way about it anyways.
I was just thinking along the lines, also things like gazebos.
Yeah, I mean, they're,
You know, if they're wearing out, when you come to sponsor them, have them blazoned all along the top of them and say,
Yeah.
show your name.
So again, we're falling back into the idea of sort of getting them to buy things for us. I'm not sure that's great.
We do have to make sure that I mean, we talked earlier about us being over generous in what we said about sponsorship. So we were saying a company which is put in a small sum for a specific aspect is getting to be told they're sponsoring the full council or the reverse is also true. We've got to make sure that the company feels it's got value for money out of its sponsorship. It's a commercial decision.
If they don't, they won't sponsor us.
So if we say, if they offer to pay, to give us money for a specific activity, we've got to make sure that the public mind at least has an opportunity to absorb the fact that they have sponsored that activity.
And that's comms.
That's
Comms.
well, it needs doing, whoever does it.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay, I'm going to suggest we move on because we still have one more large item, perhaps 2 or 3 smaller ones still to go. So we're on 546 financial report for the 8 months. Sorry?
Do we need to vote on that?
so we don't, so what?
I don't think at the moment.
No, we don't.
No, so
Just
We don't.
Conversation
It's possible just to accept the paperwork and say, thank you very much. Next, please. We can do that.
So it's an action for me to send this round to everybody.
Okay.
Then we'll bring it back.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Thank you, councillor Stirrup.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've done 457, we're on 458, sorry, we're not, we're on 548. Health and safety matters. Are there any, I don't have any, I don't know whether you do, David?
No, only that we're,
Okay.
yeah, we're within budget, so.
Looking at the next item, are there items, colleagues, that we've discussed today that you feel should be the subject of community engagement? So where are we going to report them, if we're going to report them?
No, because I don't think anything's finalised enough.
I think I can take that, that's right, I'll take that as a okay.
It's not written in stone, it's not coming
Okay.
out.
No, so there will be a time when we need to tell the public what it is we've been discussing, but not when it's half baked. Okay, so 550, community officers, committee officers update. Are there any updating items, please?
Okay.
In which case, colleagues, I thank you very much for your attendance and for your support and for progress in some matters which did need teasing out a good deal. So thank you very much. Meeting closed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Now we're going to turn that off.